Whiteside, welcome back to The Right Hook here on Newstalk. Organised religion will, a team of mathematicians are predicting, all but vanish eventually from 9 Western-style democracies. What are those countries? Well, Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the Netherlands, Austria, Czech Republic, Finland and Switzerland. These mathematicians have based this on the fact of the census information. Now, interestingly, they can't get any information from America, which is a huge 300 million people in their census. But of course, they don't ask any questions about religion. I'm joined in the studio by Director of Ceremonies for the Humanist Association of Ireland, Brian Whiteside. Brian, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, George. Good to be here.
And we're going first to Deirdre Cullen, who is Senior Statistician at the Central Statistics Office, the CSO. Deirdre, welcome to the programme.
Thanks very much, George.
And Brian is here with me.
Hello, Deirdre.
Hi.
Deirdre, what do we do in our census? What sort of information are we getting? Because these mathematicians who've been looking at it think we're one of the countries where organised religion is going to wither based on census information. What's your view?
Well, certainly the Irish Census has been collecting information on religion since 1861, so we have a very long history of asking the population about their religion, I guess, given the very important role religion has played in Ireland over the years.
Yeah.
Certainly the census it's an excellent source of tracking, the growth and fall, if you like, of different religions, be they both the major and the minor religions over time. I mean, the 2006 results were fascinating in that they showed the very large increase in the Muslim religion over 2002, an increase of nearly 70%. A doubling in the number of people who practice the Orthodox religion in Ireland from 10,000 to over 20,000. Large increase in the Hindu population.
But they're all organised religions, Deirdre. What do we see? Because the point these mathematicians are saying is organised religion is going to disappear and you're going to get people who say no religion or unaffiliated or some variation of same. What are you seeing for that?
There's an option on the Irish Census form to tick no religion, or alternatively people can write in none or no religion, and we've seen a large increase in those numbers over the last 3 censuses.
What kind of a percentage-wise?
Well, from 66,000 in 2002 up to 186,000 in 2006. So out of a population of, threefold increase, more than,
what about the question, though? The answer you get is always based in a way by the question. So if on the census form you say, what religion are you, it kind of presupposes that the person answering the census form has a religion.
You could interpret it that way, but we have other questions on the census form that ask, questions along those lines, like how do you travel to work, school or college? So there, I mean, not everybody does, and they have the option to say not applicable, or similarly, what time do you leave home? And they have the option to say this doesn't apply to me. So similarly with the religion question, we ask, what is your religion? We give 5 choices to people: Roman Catholic, Church of Ireland, Islam, Presbyterian, Orthodox. And then option 6 is other, write in your religion. And option 7 is no religion.
All right. What about, finally, would you have any thoughts about why the US Census does not ask that religious question?
The US in 2010 conducted a census using a short form. They only had 10 questions. They captured very basic demographic data. And what they're doing in the US now is capturing, if you like, the more detailed information that the Irish Census form captures on what's known as the American Community Survey, where they actually called the house and asked the information face to face. So it's not like religion was left out and everything else was put in. They only had 10 questions. All
right. Finally, if I had one of these mathematicians in the room, would you argue with them, their mathematical theory that within a short period of time organised religion will all but vanish? Based on census information.
We can't see it vanishing in Ireland. I mean, we saw an increase of 6.3% in the number of Roman Catholics 2002 to 2006. Now, that's a slightly smaller increase than the population as a whole. So their share of, if you like, people in Ireland fell slightly, but very slightly. I mean, well, we're looking at 3.7 million people in Ireland in 2006 indicated that they were Roman Catholic, and 186,000 indicated that they had no religion.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Deirdre. Deirdre Cullen, Senior Statistician at the Central Statistics Office. Brian Whiteside is with me. Brian, not only are you a Director of Ceremonies for the Humanist Association, but you have a deep and abiding interest in censuses. By the way, is that the plural of census?
I've no idea. I think censuses will do, won't it?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. I suppose I have a very friendly little crow to pluck with Deirdre. After the last census in 2006, the CSO invited submissions, people to suggest better ways of asking questions and better ways of framing the census. We, as the Humanist Association, suggested that rather than opening up with what is your religion, you would open with, do you have a religion? And if you said yes, you would then tick the appropriate box, which one it was. If it was no, you would go on to the next question. And we felt that would get a more accurate answer. We feel that where you ask, as you said, George, if you ask what is your religion and you see a number of options, if you're sort of a little bit fuzzy about it, if you're sort of betwixt and between, if you were brought up a Catholic or a Church of Ireland or whatever, but no longer practice, you may just simply tick that box.
The point, I suppose, though, is, Brian, that if you change questions, not just the religious one, if you change any question, then comparing question 6 in 2011 with 1896.
I absolutely accept that. It seems strange that they would ask the question in that case, doesn't it? Yeah. But anyway, we won't go there.
But explain there. I don't want to leave the Roman Catholic thing, because Deirdre was talking about the substantial number of people who tick the Roman Catholic box.
Yeah.
That is completely different, I would suggest, percentage-wise, with mass attendance.
Oh, absolutely. But one of the other things that we feel isn't right is if you look at the notes for the enumerators, the enumerators are the people who give out the census forms and help people and answer questions as to how they should answer them. And if people query question 12, which is the religious question, and say, I'm not sure what way I should answer this, the enumerators are instructed to tell the people to answer it in a sort of a traditional way. Well, what we are brought up as. It's not where are you now? It's what we are brought up as. And if you listen to the advertisements for the census, the message is very much, this is important because we want a picture of Ireland as it is now so that we can plan for the future. So why they would instruct their enumerators to get a historical answer? I mean, my silly sort of parallel would be if you were doing a survey of what car you had, and if you started off by saying, George, what sort of car do you drive? And if, for argument's sake, you had no car, and you said you would answer the question maybe, well, a green Morris Minor, because that's what the family traditionally drove. I'm being very silly to make the point.
No, I know what you mean.
But you know what I mean.
But the point about the census is very clear. You're supposed to actually fill it in at 8 o'clock on the night. Isn't that right? It actually
or even the following morning.
You're supposed to write it in so that the census represents precisely a snapshot in time for every citizen in the country. So it sort of says who slept in the house that night and all that.
Very intimate information, George.
But one of the things, because we want to get back to the old religious side of this, one of the interesting comparisons, of course, that Deirdre brought up was the growth in Islam, in Hindu, in other religions, primarily of the migrant population. But they too are organised religions. But the point these mathematicians are making is that census documents is pointing irrevocably to no organised religion within. Now, do you believe that?
Well, I think whatever the census says, I think we're all very used to talking to people now and hearing them say, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. Do you know what I mean? And spiritual is this word which seems to cover a multitude. On one side, it seems to mean religion, but not affiliated. And at the other end of the spectrum, it seems to mean little more than maybe emotional.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Is a humanist in an organised religion?
Humanism is not a religion. It's a life stance.
Right.
Because, a religion is, by definition, someone with a belief. Okay, you could argue that we believe in humanity, but I think we're sort of stretching it. We're not a religion. We don't worship. I think one of the definitions of religion is that you meet regularly to worship. Now, we don't meet
Humanists
to worship.
don't worship.
No, we don't.
So when my toes turn up and like, where do you think I'm going to go? Have you don't believe the fiery chariot fellow with the long beard stuff?
No, we don't. But George, we're not heavy on it. We're not, thumping the table and saying we definitely know. How does anyone know? We think on all the bounds of probability there is no God, there is no afterlife. But who knows? I mean, maybe there is, and if there is, I don't have a problem with it. But I think there's enough to be going on with in this world.
But when we think of your title of Director of Ceremonies, I don't know much about humanism, but I suspect that means you do the odd funeral here.
I do. I did one yesterday. I'll do one tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah.
So the crucial thing about funerals, because we had a family funeral quite recently, and there was a priest there, and a Maris priest called Ray Staunton, and at the crematorium, and he was magnificent in the sense of sort of support for bereaved people.
Yes.
Now, what does the humanist say to people to comfort them, as it were?
Well, that's a very good question, and I thought long and hard about this, and I'll tell you exactly what we offer, and I say it at most of my humanist funerals. I say that at times like this, we do naturally think about life and death and the meaning of it all, and we all have everyone has their own belief. But we do know that death is natural. It comes at the end of life. And as sure as day is followed by night, it must happen. But I think the comforting little bit is what I call the continuum of life, and how your influence can go on after you've died through the people you've touched in life. And I think that that's something which we can all find very real. And I do know that the words spoken by a priest or a clergyman or whoever at a funeral service, for people who believe, they can be very comforting. But for someone who really doesn't believe, it doesn't do a lot. Do you know what I mean, George? But I think
I'm reasonably certain that when my toes curl up, I'll probably be in Foxrock Church, and there'll be a couple of rugby playing priests who'll be there, and they'll talk about
me. And they'll give you a good kick-off.
Yeah, they will, and they'll talk about me and the fella in the fiery chariot, but I'm not so sure I believe the fiery chariot, but to be honest, I'm past caring at that point.
Yeah, well, good.
But I want to get back to the census for a minute, because I just wanted to get the humanism thing out there, because I was trying to fit it in now in the census form.
Yeah. Well,
so what do you put down?
None. I'll tell you, it's an interesting thing, because at the last census 5 years ago, there was a lot of confusion. People, maybe like me, didn't know what to do, and they were wondering whether they should write in humanism or something, or humanist or something in the box for other religions. But we are suggesting to people, we don't instruct people, we suggest to people that they shouldn't do that, that if they don't have a religion, they should tick no religion. Humanism is not a religion, so we don't really want people. And in fact, George, I should just take the opportunity of saying that we are starting next Monday an advertising campaign on every Dart carriage. We all know the Dart. On every Dart carriage there will be an advertisement just highlighting this. And we're not trying to force people to mark the no religion box. We're not trying to do that at all. But we're trying to just highlight that if somebody has no religion, that's the one they should
But
take.
It seems to me, question 12, is it?
Question 12.
Ingrid fills out our census form, I must say.
So you're in good hands.
I'm in good hands. Yeah. But it seems to me that question 12 is the only question in the census form which may be answered either incorrectly or not strictly factually. In other words, if you're asked, are you married, you tick it. If you have kids, you tick it, and so on and so forth, all the way through the form. But it seems that question 12, and Deirdre at the CSO is a committed and professional statistician. She wants accurate information. Now, I think if you take Roman Catholic, like me, and the reason I'm also having this conversation is it's kind of clarifying my own mind about where I am in terms of filling it out.
Well, I can help you, George, if you want.
Well, I'm a non-practicing Roman Catholic.
Well, funnily enough...
So what do I take?
Well, funnily enough, George, some years ago, and I'm afraid I can't be accurate on this, but at one census, they actually had a box for lapsed Catholics.
Did they?
Which I thought was an extraordinarily Irish sort of thing.
You wouldn't find it in any other census anywhere else. No.
Because it's not a religion, but it's where people are at.
Well, what do you advise me? What should I take?
Well, I couldn't possibly tell you what to take. You have to ask yourself, George, am I do I have religion or do I not? Do I believe or do I not? You see, so many people in Ireland treat it as a cultural thing. Asher was born a Catholic, and, they don't think about it too much. Especially, George, people like you, who are so engrossed in sport. Your poor brain doesn't have any space to think about these things.
You mean I was kicked too many times in the head?
No, I don't mean that at all. I think a lot of people don't think about it a lot, and so it becomes a traditional, cultural, tribal answer. Do you know what I mean? This was the tribe I was born into, and this is the box
I'm a Lakota Sioux, so I take it.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas we would encourage people to be a little bit more exact and to look into themselves and say, have I got a religion? Do I practice a religion? Can I honestly say that I am a Roman Catholic or I'm Church of Ireland?
Now, I do have an enumerator sending me a text message, and he or she says they don't lead the answer as you suggest.
Well, that's the answer we got from the CSO.
All right. Owen in Dublin he's going to put Catholic on his census form, but he wishes he had an option of that the option were practicing or non-practicing.
Yeah.
There should be that option.
There's so many subsets, aren't there?
Yeah. Perhaps the best way to ask the question, John Mead says, to which religion do you give money?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. They are obsessed with statistics in this country. It should be every 10 years like the UK, not every 5 as here, Tony and Out. What do you think about that?
I don't know.
All right. Paul says Hinduism is not an organised religion. It differs from place to place.
Yeah. But I think, George, one point I would make, I think it's very important, in planning for the future, education is a hugely important...
Exactly. That's why the census is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And if a huge number of people continue to tick their traditional, what they were born into, there will be an argument that Ireland is not changing very much and that the status quo is okay on schools. Now, Dermot Martin, who's a wonderful man, is all for the Catholic Church.
But that's precisely what the census is for. Either in terms of how many roads should we build, how many schools should we build, what kind of schools should we build, and if we put in the wrong information...
Absolutely. And let me just say that even if 95% of the population is Catholic, I still think we should have all children educated together, because I believe very strongly.
But that's that's another day, Brian.
That's another day.
Another day.
If we get a lot of people taking no religion, it will certainly strengthen the argument.
Okay, well, no, because that's another day.
That's another day. And I hope we'll do it someday.
Director of Ceremonies for the Humanist Association of Ireland, Brian Whiteside. Earlier you heard Deirdre Cullen, Senior Statistician at the Central Statistics Office.